All right, everybody, good morning. Thank you for joining us for the Accessibility Town Hall with College Education and Innovative Learning. So we're very glad to have two representatives from Innovative Learning joining us today. I am going to go through a couple of reminders here of how this is going to work. So please submit any of your questions during the town hall using the Q&A feature. So we're doing that instead of the chat so that we can kind of keep everything a little bit more organized. Pablo is going to be moderating that chat for you. If he's able to, he might be able to answer your question directly within the chat. And then we will also have some time at the end where we're going to do a Q&A, and he will pull a few of those from the chat and answer them. If we don't get to your question during the town hall, we're going to take the list of the questions in the Q&A that we don't get to, and we will follow up with you after. That also includes any questions that were submitted through the registration form that we were not able to answer during the town hall or before the town hall. So just letting you know that. So please use that Q&A feature. It's also, highly likely that you might submit a question and we may end up answering it during the course of the presentation. But please don't hesitate to use that feature. We're going to leave plenty of time for questions at the end. So we also wanted to add a little bit of something fun because we know you guys like prizes. And so this presentation, the one that you're looking at right now, contains a specific number of intentional accessibility errors. So pay close attention during the presentation and see how many you can spot. And then when we get to the prize part, we will let you know. So pay attention as we move forward. So we have our presenters for today. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Kerri Richardson. I'm the web developer with the College of Education. We also have Pablo here today. He is my partner in crime and my associate web designer. And then we also have Leslie Miller joining us from the Center for Instructional Excellence. So she is a faculty accessibility consultant. And, any and all of your questions, Leslie will probably be able to help you. So she's been very, very helpful so far for Pablo and I. So, and then we also have Ben joining us from Teaching and Learning Technologies. And he's going to be able to answer some questions later on about Brightspace. So, so we are going to move right along here. So here's kind of our agenda. We kind of pulled this together based on some of the questions that you all already submitted when you registered. And we're kind of seeing the themes that we got. So we're going to answer a couple very general compliance questions that were sent in. Leslie's going to go through some tools and resources that are available with Innovative Learning, as well as other a few additional ones at Purdue. Ben is going to talk a little bit about videos and captions. And then Leslie and I are going to do a demo of the Microsoft Accessibility Checker. I'm going to do PowerPoint and Leslie's going to do Word. And then we're also going to mention a couple other things that you can use for document and slide remediation. And then we'll get into the Q&A. So let's get started. Okay, general compliance. What are the minimum requirements? So that's a great question. And there's not really a good answer. It's kind of a little bit of a gray area in terms of minimum. Ultimately, the best that we can do and the best, that Innovative Learning can do is to refer you to the Office of Civil Rights. So, ultimately, as a college, we want to try our best to meet that compliance deadline and having our materials be 100% accessible. But there's not really a minimum requirement right now. So we know this is a big deal. We know it's a lot of work. And ultimately, we need to be able to show that we're working towards compliance. So, you know, even if you're not able to get all of your materials 100% compliant by the deadline, we need to be able to show that we're working towards that. And so, you know, if it's one of those things where if all you have time for right now is getting your spring 2026 things up to date, that's fine. But you know, then starting for, you know, the fall, like over the summer, like let's make sure that, you know, when we get to that fall semester that we're 100% compliant across the board. So this was another one, and we kind of talked about this when we met back in January. You know, what are the guidelines for documents or web pages that contain external non-Purdue web links? So Pablo and I could just have an hour-long meeting just about this. And the thing is that we're still trying to figure out this answer. We've been going back and forth with Purdue Brand Studio and the Office of Civil Rights, and we still don't have a good answer to this question. So just know that we're trying to get an answer to this question, but we don't have it yet. Kind of some of the general guidance that I have been telling people is, you know, go ahead, make note of your external links, you know, note where they are, where they go to, so that when we do have a better idea of how to address this, you already know where you have to make any updates. So again, we're looking into this, we're trying our best. So just know that we're hoping to get a better answer on this, but I'm going to turn it over to Leslie, and she's going to talk about the last two on this slide. So Leslie, take it away.
Yeah, so do courses taught this semester have to be retroactively compliant by the deadline, which is April 24th, which I know is an arbitrary date, and we only have a week left of the semester. The Department of Justice decided on that date because it was 2 years exactly from the date that they passed the law. But of course, they didn't take into account semesters. But so the answer is yes. If students do have access to the material after the deadline, it needs to be compliant. However, some instructors have said that what they're planning on doing is, instead of worrying and getting, you know, overwhelmed with fixing everything in your Brightspace, they're just focusing on what students need access to during finals week, and then removing the rest of the files in Brightspace until they have time to get to it and work on it. So that's something you could do, is if students need access to it for finals, then make sure that's good to go, because that's after the deadline, and then just get rid of the other, well, don't get rid of it, but keep it somewhere for you to fix later. Which brings me to the last point is we have a remediation tool coming, and it's a system-wide tool, and it's free. So it'll be available to everybody, faculty, staff, students, and hopefully it will be integrated into Brightspace, but we also believe it'll be accessible to you to use outside of Brightspace. Those details are still in the works, so it's in the purchasing stage. So we don't have a date, and it's definitely not going to be before April 24th. We do know that because it's already February, but it is in the process of being purchased. So if you do decide to, you know, just focus on your last 2 weeks of the semester or something like that, then you'll have that tool to help you with this work over the summer. Well, hopefully over the summer. We don't have a date. That's all I know. So.
Sorry, I was muted. I was trying to talk and, you know, nothing came out. Okay. Moving along here to tools and resources.
Thank you. Okay, so this slide has a lot of different links that you can access. I think Kerri's sharing the slide, so you can just actually click on it and go to the resource. But I want to share the innovative learning resources. We have several things that we're doing. I can share my screen if that's easier.
Yep.
I'll just do that. Let me share the website and walk you through what we can help you with. And many of you, I recognize your names. You've probably done our drop-ins. We have daily drop-ins this semester, so you can just, if you're starting to work on a file, you can pop in, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So we have this website. It's getting a bit wordy, so you can just kind of take your time reading it. But we have a little start here, a little checklist that I'll look at, we'll look at here in a minute. But if you scroll down, we have synchronous workshops. So we have the recordings, and we're going to have, we have a deep dive recording that we'll have up on the website soon as well. So and Ben was the feature speaker for those, and he did amazing. So here are the drop-ins. And so we're going to have these until May 8th, and you can access it from this link, and then it's every single day of the week at different times. So those are there for you. And your TAs too. If you have students or TAs helping you with your work, they're definitely welcome to come in. And we also have a training course in Brightspace. It's self-paced, non-credit, so you can look at it at your leisure, but this gives you an idea of how to sign up for that. And then we have frequently asked questions, and we ran these answers by Office of Civil Rights. So there's that as well. And then this is about the remediation tool. So this website, which actually, I'll put all of these links in the chat, which I believe they can access the chat, I think. We'll verify, but we'll make sure you have all of the links that we provide. Anyway, so you can check out the demos if you want, but again, the tool has been chosen and it's in purchasing. Okay, so let me go to the checklist. Okay, this is continually being updated, this web page, and I'll put this, we'll give you this link. And the latest is STEM notation, LaTeX, and the math department has been so amazing with their resources, sharing it for the whole system. So that's been awesome. So if you scroll down, there's these accordions, and then it gives you what you need to do for Word, what you need to do for PowerPoint. We have some PDF strategies that you can do for free, not you don't have to pay for something. And again, the remediation tool is going to help us with all of these things. So yeah, it's a lot of different resources. Let me stop sharing. And actually, when we get to the Word demonstration, I'm actually going to give you the checklist in a Word document file format that you can keep, make a copy of, and mess around with. But so it's kind of the checklist, but in a Word format. So we'll get to that here in a minute.
A few other things to point out here. There's some other things at Purdue that you have access to. We found a really good guide from the Purdue libraries that talks about like how to do headings and color contrast, and it kind of like in alt text, and they kind of give you some really good steps on like what those are and how to, and good examples. Purdue Brand Studio also has templates that you can use, for PowerPoint and things like that. If you download the current PowerPoint, though, that they have listed, it is not accessible. So we have actually added the correct version that is accessible. If you click on this link right here, we've added it to our website for now, so that you guys can download it until they get this webpage updated. So if you're looking for the correct Purdue branded PowerPoint, you can get it here. All right. We're going to keep moving along here. So, and Ben is going to talk about YouTube and Kaltura. Take it away, Ben.
So, so thinking about video, we know that you may have many videos, and YouTube and Kaltura are probably the most common places that those videos are hosted or stored. So I'm going to talk about those two, but if you have questions about others, we'd be happy to dive in and think about those as well. So when thinking about YouTube, you may have YouTube videos that you own, but more likely you're using YouTube videos that other people own. If you are using a video that someone else owns, you're not, it doesn't necessarily have closed captions. And of course, since you don't control it, you can't put closed captions on it. There is a loophole in Kaltura that I'll talk about in a second. But if you look at a Kaltura video, there is a CC icon in the lower right. If that is able to be clicked, then it has closed captions, and you can, play the video and see the accuracy of those. You don't have to do that, but it's good to kind of watch a few seconds and say, hey, this is actually real. It actually works and is giving me the information I need. Essentially, when thinking about videos, the captions, of course, are there for people who are hard of hearing, and we, in most cases, the video portion, the audio portion will cover the information that's in the video portion. So, for instance, if you're thinking about a lecture video, if someone is talking through some content, that monologue is conveying the information that's there visually. So normally, if you caption a video, then you're compliant. Just to kind of step back and think about the ruling. Most times, captions are going to fit the bill, and then you're good and you don't have to worry. So anyway, back to the tools here. With YouTube, you can check for that CC symbol. With Kaltura, you have much more control because Kaltura is a Purdue resource. When you upload a video to Kaltura, and you can do that through Brightspace, there's under existing activities, add Kaltura media, you can upload a video there. When you do that in Kaltura, it will automatically be captioned for you. These are machine captions, AI captions, and they are getting very good. So if you have a video that's got pretty good audio quality, you're probably just fine with mechanical captions. They're probably going to convey the information just fine. After the captions come through, so it takes, when you upload the video, it does take, usually 2 to 5 minutes for the captions to show up. It's quite quick, but when they're there, you can click play and view the captions, spot check them. I like to say, know your workflow, know how well your workflow produces captions. So, if you lecture in a certain area, or if you record in your office from a certain microphone, and you put that into Kaltura, and you get good captions out of it, if you come back and use the same equipment the next day, it's probably going to be pretty good. So it's not like you have to look at everything, but just know the quality that's being produced by the workflow that you're using. So the good news there with Kaltura, it automatically captions videos that you upload. If you have older videos in Kaltura, there is a way that you can trigger that process so that it creates captions for you. And that's an option called Caption and Enrich. If you look at the video page and you look at the action items, Caption and Enrich is what you're looking for to add captions to older videos. The loophole for YouTube that I was talking about, if you are wanting to use a YouTube video that does not have captions or that doesn't have captions that you're happy with, if you add that YouTube video to Kaltura, it will auto caption just like it does for a video that you would upload. So when you're in Kaltura, there's an option to add new media. There is also an option in that same menu to add a YouTube video, and you just simply paste the YouTube link, and Kaltura links to that YouTube video and actually accesses it in order to create its own captions. So that can be a good option for you as well. With all of this, there's a lot of nuance here. So if you have questions that we aren't able to get to today, please come to drop-ins or reach out to us, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of the innovative learning team, guys. I mean, that's what, their drop-ins are for. They're for you guys to ask, specific questions. You guys can also always, reach out to Pablo and I. And, if we aren't able to help, then we can definitely put you in touch with people that can. But definitely use innovative learning as a resource. So, yeah. All right. So now we are getting into the document and slide remediation portion of this. So like I said, I'm going to run through a accessibility check in PowerPoint, and then I'm going to hand it over to Leslie, and she's going to show you how to use the accessibility checker in Word. And then we will talk really quickly about tools that you can use for Google. But we'll go ahead and get started. Now, here's where the prize portion comes in. So, so I am going to exit out of this. Now, in the chat, so not in the Q&A, in the chat. So, if you guys have been paying attention, so basically how this is going to work is, if you've been paying attention, we want you to tell us in the chat how many accessibility errors that you've seen. So this is a number. And then when I pull the accessibility checker up, we will give a prize to the person that either, gets it right or at least gets the closest. If there's more than one person that gets close to it or guesses it, we will just do a drawing, and the award is a Starbucks gift card. So go ahead and put your guesses in the chat, and then I'm going to run the accessibility checker. So let's see. Oh man, Alyssa's the only one that's guessed so far. So okay. Let's see. All right, I'm going to run the checker here. So to run the checker, guys, what you're going to do is you're going to go up here into your ribbon at the top. You're going to go to review and then check accessibility. So I'm going to hit check accessibility, and let's see, we've got 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, oh, looky there, Steve Smith. Looks like you guessed 11. So, oh, okay. So did Sean Farrington. So Steve and Sean, we're going to have to do a coin flip for that, okay? Oh, Steve said after the fact. Okay. Well, maybe we'll get you both one. Would that work? Okay. Sean said give it to Steve. Okay. Well, all right. So I'm going to run through in PowerPoint kind of what it has flagged. Oh, look, okay, my boss said we can give out 2. So we're covered. Okay. All right. So like I said, you do the ribbon up here, you go to review, and you hit check accessibility, and then it pulls up this very nice menu on the side here. So this is checking my entire document or my entire PowerPoint. If I only wanted to see the issues on this specific slide, then I could click this toggle and it will show me just the errors on the one slide. This slide specifically does not have any errors on it, but I'm going to turn this back on so I can see the whole document. So the first one that pops up is hard to read text contrast. So basically, if you noticed on this slide, I used a lighter gray text and on the gold background. And so that can be a little bit hard for people to see. And so what's nice is that Word is letting me know what options will actually work there. So I can just click on this one and it will automatically change it. And it will change all of those for me. So pretty easy, just, one click and it will change that. So then moving to the next one, missing alt text. So you'll notice I have images here and I did not add alt text for these. So when you click on that, it will bring up this area where you can add alt text. Because these are just people, I'm going to put just my name. If this was in a different context where I didn't have my title underneath here, for your alt text, I might want to actually do my name and my title. So I just see in the chat, my boss asked what's alt text. All right, so just to give you guys a brief overview. So alt text is, it's a descriptive text that kind of is hidden on an image. And so when people use a screen reader, it essentially reads to them what is in the image. So if this was a picture of like students outside on campus, then something that you could use for alt text is like a group of 3 students walk through campus. So I mean, it's just describing what's in the image. So because these are headshots, I'm just going to put the name. And also, like I said, Purdue Libraries, that link that's in one of the other slides, they have a really good example of what alt text is and how to use it. So I'm going to hit save. For this one, it's going to ask me what this one is. I'm going to put Pablo. Hit save. Leslie. Gonna hit save, and Ben. All right, I'm gonna hit save on that too. So when I come down to this next one, a missing table header. So I'm gonna click on this. So you'll see on my table here, so it looks like I have a table header, right? Well, in the terms of how tables are used, this actually is not a table header, even though it is a different color. It's actually just a banded row. So in order to fix this, you can either insert a header row. I can use the first row as a header, or I can insert a header column or use the first column as a header. So because I already have my first row kind of set up like a header, I'm going to use first row as header. And you'll notice here that when I clicked that, you'll notice now I have this hard to read text contrast again that's popping up. So I'm going to click this and it's for this slide. And so it says hard to read. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to just go ahead and do black, and it will automatically fix this. Now, I do want to point out something when it comes to high contrast. Within Word, you can actually go up here, like within your font colors, and normally you'd be able to turn this on where it says high contrast only, and it will show you the colors that are high contrast that you can use. So back to my accessibility thing. I'm going to go here. So I have a duplicate slide title. So PowerPoint does not like when you have duplicate titles for things. So because if you'll notice here, this is a good example. So this slide is called Tools and Resources, but I actually also called this next slide Tools and Resources. And it could just be that it was a mistake. I maybe copied this slide and to use it to start this slide. So I'm going to click on this. And I am going to edit, and I'm just going to call this captions. or video captions. Let's make it descriptive, okay? Video captions. I'm going to do that. And now I don't have a duplicate slide title. Now this last one is reading order. So reading order is the order in which the screen reader, if someone's using a screen reader, the order in which they read the content on a specific slide. So, and I will say that PowerPoint does a little bit better job checking this than Word does. But the way to check it is you go here to check object order, and then it kind of brings everything up in order of how the screen reader is going to read it. So when I click on this, you'll see that, okay, that's the first one. And there's these rectangles at the top. These are decorative. So I've marked them as decorative because it's just these things here at the bottom. And they're just there as part of the slide. So I'm not going to add anything to them, but I am going to put them up here. So you'll see here the 1, and then it's numbered. So this is where it starts to read. So, you know, we want this to be the first thing it reads out. Oh, that moved it. So then that's the next thing, even though there's nothing there. But if we did add a subhead, we would want this to be the second thing that's read. It then moves to my image, and then moves to my text box that has my information. And then it has my title, or my, yeah. And then it moves to Pablo. But you'll notice that it actually moved to Pablo's name and not his image. So I want to come down here and find Pablo's image, and I want to move it. And all you do is just drag and drop. I'm going to move it so that it shows his image, then his name, and then his title. And so, and then we go Leslie, and oh, okay, it goes to Ben. So I want to come down here and find Leslie's text box, and I'm going to move it up under her name. And then I see here that also her title isn't in the right spot, so I'm going to move it there. So, and then we go Ben, his name, his title, and then the last thing, the slide number. So, so then I'm going to go back here to the accessibility checker, and then look, I am all done. So I'm going to hit save, and now I am going to hand it over to Leslie to show you Word.
Thank you. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So this is going to be, I'll put this link in the chat so you can access it. And you can save a copy and keep this. But also just a caveat, the web page that I linked into the chat will always be more updated than this Word document. Okay, so you have this Word document and you wonder, oh, is it accessible? Well, let's do the review. So it's the same as PowerPoint: review, and then check accessibility, no issues were found. It looks at color contrast, if you're missing alt text, if you have a table without a header. It does not like merged cells and tables, so it'll tell you need to split those or do something about them. Well, they don't like split cells either. I mean, make them so they're not merged. And then it'll tell you if you have headings in the document, and then, which is a new feature like 2 days ago. It wasn't there earlier this week. And so I think they're continually updating their accessibility assistant. And then restricted access, which I'm not actually sure what that means. Okay, so if you want to know, do I have headers? Go to view, and then navigation pane. I use this navigation pane all the time. I love it. I use it for my schedule. So week 1 module for my class, you know, all the way through 12 weeks, whatever. And then you can just kind of jump down using the navigation pane. Okay, so I want to show you, this is a header, and it's showing up over here on the left panel. You go to home, and then open the styles. And that's where you can put all of your headers. Okay, so let's say that this is actually the built-in style, the way that it looks visually. I didn't care for that. So let's say that you want it to be, Calibri, 12 font, bolded, whatever you want. You can go over to your heading style. There's a little drop down and you can say update heading 1 to match selection. So I want it to look visually how I want it to look. But I need to have that tag of a heading so that it can be read by a screen reader in that order. And then you want to do headers as a hierarchy. So you can't go from heading 1 to 5 back to 4, that kind of thing. You have to go in order. And so this is a heading 2, and you can see how it highlighted heading 2 over here. And I have a heading 3, which it depends on the structure of your document as far as, let's say that this section was actually a new main section that is similar to the areas of focus for your class. That can be a heading 2 as well. You only want one heading 1 in your document because that serves as the title of the document. And then you can do heading 2s throughout, depending on your context of your document. So you'll just have to decide how you want to do that. I think that is all I wanted to show you for this, and I can answer more questions as you start playing around. And of course, we have the drop-ins. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that if you go to view, turn on your navigation pane, you can see the structure of your document. Yeah. I think you can let me know if you need me to talk about more than that, but.
Yeah, and I'll also point out, guys, so if you make your document accessible in Word, then when you go to save it as a PDF, then your PDF will also be accessible. So if that would kind of be the ideal way to do things is start in your Microsoft products and then make something into a PDF, because and I do see some questions in the chat about PDFs and how to make them accessible. And I will tell you that Acrobat and the tools within Acrobat to make PDFs accessible are very difficult to use. They are not user-friendly at all. So the Microsoft accessibility items are a lot easier to use than the ones in Acrobat. So let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going to get back into the presentation here. Okay, so let's talk about Google real quick. So here's the thing. Google, as you know, we're not a Google school. So any of these items that I'm getting ready to talk about are actually not supported by Purdue. And we therefore can't provide you any kind of support for these. Okay. So meaning that, if you try to reach out to someone to ask questions about it at Purdue, like IT or anything like that, they're not going to be able to answer those for you. They're gonna send you more towards Microsoft. Now, we know that a lot of you do use Google because of the collaboration things that you can do with your students. So there are extensions that you can download for Google Docs, Slides, and Sheets. And it's a tool called Grackle. And I have put the links there that you can download. It adds it as an extension. So when you open your document, you would then in the menu go to extensions and then launch. And it will launch an accessibility checker that is very similar to what is in Word. However, the one thing that isn't really visible when you do this is that when you download the extension for the first time, you're essentially getting a 30-day trial of the paid version of Grackle. Now, and that includes all the features where, just like in Word, when I clicked on something in that accessibility checker, it automatically jumped to where it was in my document. Now, Grackle will do that for the first 30 days. After the trial ends, it will no longer tell you within your document where your issue is. So it will tell you that you have issues. Like it will tell you that, hey, you have a color contrast error. Hey, you're missing a heading. But after that 30-day trial, it will not tell you where it is. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing this. One of the things that we did play around with the other day, Leslie, Pablo, and I, is that you can create your document in Word or PowerPoint using the Microsoft Accessibility Checker. That's a little bit easier to use. And then you can upload it to your Google Drive. And then you can resave it and convert it to the Google Doc or Google Slides. And then Grackle, you could use Grackle that way because you would have already checked you've already used the accessibility checker in Microsoft where it will show you where your errors are and show you exactly where it is and how to fix it. So that's kind of like a potential workaround. So create it in Word, upload it to your drive, convert it, and then you can still use those collaboration features that are available in Google, but your document is accessible by the time you upload it. So again, we're just saying that these are available, but we can't provide any kind of support on them. PDFs. Okay, so there's a lot of questions about PDFs, and we can talk a little bit about them in here in a second. But obviously, and I pulled this directly from Innovative Learning, so Leslie and Ben might recognize this. We're going to encourage you guys to not use PDFs unless you can ensure they're accessible. And then we're just going to refer you directly to Innovative Learning. They have a whole PDF remediation page. And just a reminder from us as the college, we do not allow PDFs on our website at all. So keep that in mind. And then now we're going to do some Q&A. So Pablo, what do you have for us that we should address? I know we wanted to address one about Brightspace that we actually got before this meeting. So do you have that question?
I think there was just a general question on Brightspace accessibility and not outside of Brightspace, like Word, that part is understood, but in terms of what accessibility features does Brightspace itself has as the platform for instructors?
Okay. So we're going to actually hand that one over to Ben. Ben, would you like to share your screen to show people Brightspace or?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's useful.
All right. Yeah, I will hand it over to you real quick.
So I'll share here. And I'm just going to use the course that we used in our introductory workshop. So Brightspace will steer you towards making accessible content. So if you are creating text within the Brightspace text editor, then it will ask you for alt text when you add an image. It will warn you if you don't have enough color contrast between the text that you're entering in the background of the area where you're entering the text. So things like that will steer you towards making accessible content. There is an accessibility checker as well. So if I look at this content area, if I click on the content here, you can see it's got images and text. If I click on the content area, it brings me to the text editor that I was referring to, where it's going to steer you towards accessibility. Now, in this example, I've broken several things. So I can click on the little circle with the person inside, which is the accessibility checker. Actually, I'm going to expand this out and then find that again. So the accessibility checker here will tell you if you've got errors, just like the Word checker and the PowerPoint checker. Some of them you can fix right within the checker itself. Some of them it will ask you to go into the text and fix something. So of course, like Pablo said, the uploaded documents are a whole other thing, where if you've got something that's other than Word or PowerPoint that we talked, or a PDF that we talked about today, then that's if you need help with that, come to the drop-ins and ask. But for the Brightspace content itself, this will get you where you need to be.
All right, I was on mute again. All right, so we've definitely got a lot of good questions in the chat or in the Q&A. So Pablo, are there any of them that stood out for you?
Well, I know there have been some that have had answers talked about in the comments, so I'm going to focus on ones that have not had any discussion in the Q&A panel, but of course
Okay.
we'll obviously follow up with all of these. So Kathy had a question. Are we okay if we send students to a Purdue library resource, like an article? I know we can't PDF them and put them on Brightspace. Is there anything additional we as instructors need to do?
Leslie just shared something in the chat. So Kathy, I think maybe, are you talking about like if there is something like an article or something that's within Purdue libraries? Because if so, that is one of the things that we found that that Purdue is encouraging instructors is to, if something is available through Purdue libraries over something else, they're encouraging you to link to it through Purdue libraries over using an external link or things like that. I've seen a lot of I've seen a couple of questions again about the external links, and Elizabeth, I'm going to address yours about how are we supposed to have students engage with current research if we can't have them read peer-reviewed articles. This is one of the things that Pablo and I have been going back and forth with Office of Civil Rights about. So, and again, we still don't have a good answer. Pablo and I are getting very close to just deciding what we want to do as a college, but we are just waiting a little bit longer to see if Office of Civil Rights comes back to us. So, and Leslie, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking too. And I also just wanted to add that libraries is working on, so the databases that we can access within the library are considered third party. So those need to be accessible. But what we don't want to happen is, we can't access this information anymore. And so they're working on that licensing. It depends on how those journals and database, JSTOR, for example, or EBSCOhost, how much they care about making their platform accessible for education, because we're probably a small part of their revenue. So yeah, it's a whole unfortunate situation, but there is discussion. They are working on it. What I've heard faculty, what they're doing is, like Kerri said, giving the permalink to students so they can access the reading themselves. I put in the chat the advice from the library that if the reading offers an HTML version, perfect. And then another thing is sometimes professors just give a reference list, so they're in APA format or whatever, and then the student can find it themselves on Google Scholar or wherever. So there are some workarounds, but it's unfortunate situation right now, but we're working on it.
Go ahead, Ben. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to add, we did talk to the Copyright Office, because sometimes we get the question, can I take something that's, you know, if there's a paper that I know is not accessible, and I know how to make it accessible, can I take it, make it accessible, and give it to students? Is that a copyright violation? And what we heard from the Copyright Office is, as long as you are providing it to students in a secure environment like Brightspace, that is fine to do. So you can take a copyrighted document and, for the purpose of accessibility, change it, make it accessible, as long as you put it in Brightspace or another secure location.
All right. Pablo, what do you have next?
See, there was a question on like audio descriptions. When we do videos, we now also have to provide a written description of everything that occurs in the video for students who are blind or have low vision. How does this work when a video presents a visual trick that cannot be described in words?
Ben, you want to take that one, or Leslie?
I can give it a shot. So, so I think, you know, when we think about a lot of the questions are about what is the standard and what is Purdue's take on the standard. So talking just about the standard, you know, it does say that you need to have audio description, or description of what happens in the video. And the way that I interpret that is, if there's information that's important to the student, then the student needs to be able to get at that information. So if the visual trick is important information for the course, then that would need to be provided to the student in some format that they could access. Now, that can be, you know, very difficult, right? And it may be that you meet the standard by providing a description. I think that would meet the standard. And then if students have a disability and need something better, then work with them to, just through the standard procedure, through, you know, the student may go through the DRC, but also you can give students, we always like to say, put in your syllabus, tell students, if you have trouble accessing any of the material, contact me, because that opens that channel, or leaves that channel of communication open, so that you can resolve any issues. So I think like a basic description would fulfill the standard, and then you do more when needed.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Captions, so videos, you'll have captions, and then sometimes it automatically will add that audio description of, like, there's some eerie silence that only visually you can see, or something like that. And so you can just add those things if it's important for student learning. If it's not contextual to your purpose, then it's up, you know, do what you can, is my suggestion.
Yeah. So I did notice in the chat there are a couple of questions about the new, or the potential remediation tool. And so someone says that they want to know how comprehensive it'll be. They said they watched all of the different demos, and that the helpful abilities in them kind of differ from platform to platform. So can you speak a little bit more about the remediation tool? Maybe about like what your guys's qualifications are for what you're like trying to choose. I know you like can't go too far into it, but can you speak a little bit more about what you're hoping that it will be able to do?
Yes. Trying
Okay.
not to give away, because we don't want to commit and
Right, exactly. Yeah.
so we will want that it's going to scan our files and PDFs, Word documents, files that you have,
In
and
Brightspace, right?
Brightspace, and also outside of Brightspace
Okay.
is a feature we really want as well. And then students can access it as well. Everybody would be able to access it for free. And it would also scan handwriting and put it into an accessible format. We have a lot, the demos, if the person saw, we gave them some really complex like equations and just various graphs and all these handwritten things and whatnot. So we wanted to do the things that Purdue faculty and instructors do, So yeah, that is our goal.
Pablo, were there any other I know there's a lot in here, so, and we're not going to have time to get to all of them, but like we said, we'll, take these and we'll make sure that you get answers after the fact. But is there any in here, Pablo, that kind of stood out to you that we should have them answered while Leslie and Ben are on the call?
There is one I saw. Um, it says about articles, like if we're linking to articles as part of course content. Um, it says, what about a New York Times article? If I make a PDF and put it on Brightspace, but it is available as well through accessing Purdue libraries, can I still put up the PDF and then also have the link to the libraries?
So this is, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ben.
This sort of touches on the question of, can you have an alternate conforming document? So, if you have something that's a version that's accessible and a version that's inaccessible, can you provide both? And that's not a question that we've gotten an answer to from the Office of Civil Rights, so really can't say. But in terms of copyright, you're okay to do that. So for instance, if you want to provide the article from New York Times and you print a PDF of it and you make sure that that's accessible, that's difficult to do. But if you copy paste it into a Word document, whatever your process is, you could provide that in Brightspace as long as it's accessible. I always err on the side of giving students more rather than less. So if you provide that and the link to the libraries, or the suggestion that it's also in libraries, you could do that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're making, like he said, if you're making that PDF, the key is to make sure it's accessible too. And I know there have been a lot of questions in the chat about making PDFs accessible in Acrobat, and about how in order to have Acrobat, you do have to have a license and for it. And that is a question that about, and if Purdue is providing those licenses, that is a question that we do not have the answer to. Again, Innovative Learning has a lot more resources on remediating PDFs than what Pablo and I can give you. And so when we send these out, the slides, there is a link to that page that talks about PDF remediation. And so, take advantage of Innovative Learning for those things. I think we have time. Oh, we have about 1 minute left. So, thank you guys for joining us today. Like I said, we have all the questions in the chat. If we did not answer them, we will we're going to make a note of these and we're going to try to get answers for you. But thank you for joining us. If you do have questions, you can reach out to Pablo and I. please, please, please take advantage of innovative learning and their drop-ins. They are here to help you. And, you know, like we said, there is a lot of things that we still don't have answers to, or that we don't have good answers to. And just know that, you know, our team is, you know, trying to get information from Office of Civil Rights. Innovative Learning is also trying to get, you know, those answers from Office of Civil Rights. And so, you know, just know that this is kind of an ever evolving process, and that we're still continuing to learn how Purdue itself is interpreting this ruling. So we know what the ruling is, we know what the standard is, but Purdue has its own interpretation of it. And so that's the thing that we have to follow, and we're still learning more about that. So again, if you have questions, please reach out to us, and, you know, thank you again for joining us today.